All right, diving into Elder Bednar's talk, meek and lowly of heart.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, you sent it over, and to be honest, I was a little hesitant at first.
Really?
Meekness. It just always seems so, I don't know, passive.
I can see that.
But the way he breaks it down, starting with these stories, really shifted my perspective, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I like about Elder Bednar's approach. He doesn't just hit you with a dictionary definition right away.
Mm-hmm.
He shows us what meekness looks like, in action first.
Right. It's like, okay, take the rich young man and Amulek,
Okay.
both successful guys keeping the commandments, but how they respond to spiritual promptings. Completely different.
Totally. It's like a case study, in contrasts.
Yeah.
The rich young man, he just couldn't let go of his possessions.
Even though the scriptures say he was sorrowful about it.
Right, which is so interesting, right? It shows us that outward obedience
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always mean, a truly yielded heart.
Yeah, you can be doing all the right things outwardly, but inside,
Right.
there's still that clinging.
Oh, exactly.
Whereas Amulek, he had to overcome some serious internal resistance to follow that prompting.
Yeah, he did.
He left behind his wealth, faced rejection from his own community.
There's a whole other level,
Yeah.
of commitment.
What I find so interesting is that for the listener, it's like, what's that sticking point for us in our own lives?
Yeah, totally.
What are we holding on to that might be preventing us, from fully embracing a prompting, whatever that prompting might be?
Yeah, and I think that's what's so brilliant about these examples, that
Yeah.
they're not just these historical anecdotes, but they're like mirrors, reflecting our own
Mm-hmm.
potential for both, like hesitation and then also courage.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it's not always about, these dramatic choices. Like Amulek's
Right.
meekness also shows up in these quieter, more subtle ways.
Like in the story of Pahoran and Moroni.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, talk about a tense situation.
Yeah.
Moroni's leading the Nephite armies, feels completely abandoned. And he just fires off this scathing letter to Pahoran, the chief judge, accusing him of treason, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be furious.
Oh, absolutely.
But Pahoran, he doesn't take the bait.
He doesn't rise to it.
He responds with, well, meekness.
Yeah.
Instead of getting defensive or angry, he just calmly lays out the situation that Moroni didn't know about.
Right.
Shows compassion for what Moroni's been going through, even though he's being wrongly accused.
It's amazing.
And this is what gets me. Like, wouldn't it be easier to just clear your name? Point out Moroni's mistake.
Yeah.
Why even bother being so understanding when you've been wronged like that?
Well, because I think it shows us that meekness isn't about weakness.
Okay.
It's about having the strength to kind of rise above, that immediate situation, to see the bigger picture
Mm-hmm.
and respond with wisdom rather than just reacting, with our hurt ego.
Yeah.
Like Pahoran, he was focused on unity, on the greater good,
Yeah.
not on being right.
Proving himself right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a huge lesson for all of us, especially, when we feel like we've been unjustly accused.
Yeah. It's like choosing long-term peace over being.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And, it ties in perfectly with that last example. Before Elder Bednar finally gives us his definition,
Yeah.
we have President Nelson and President Ehring, at the top of their game, being called by President Monson to study the Book of Mormon.
Oh, yeah. I love that example.
And these are men, decades of experience,
Mhm.
already steeped in the scriptures.
You'd think, right? Been there, done that.
Right. But instead, they dive in with this incredible enthusiasm,
Yeah.
ready to learn and deepen their understanding even further.
It's humbling.
Oh, absolutely.
It is.
Here's what I took away from that. Meekness isn't about being passive or unlearned.
Mm-hmm.
It's about having a heart that's always open to learning, no matter your position or expertise.
Yeah.
It's recognizing there's always more to discover, more to understand.
Yeah. And I think that brings us beautifully to Elder Bednar's definition, which is so important because it really explodes this common misconception that meekness equals weakness.
Yeah.
He says it's strong, not weak, active, not passive, courageous, not timid.
I love that.
And he lays out 3 specific characteristics:
Okay.
righteous responsiveness, willing submissiveness, and strong self-restraint.
Okay, so break those down for us.
Okay.
What do those terms actually mean in practice?
So let's look back at our examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amulek's willing sacrifice, Pahoran's measured response,
Yeah.
the prophet's eagerness to learn.
Mm-hmm.
They all embody these traits.
Yeah.
So righteous responsiveness is about aligning our actions,
Okay.
with God's will, even when it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Willing submissiveness is about yielding our own desires, like Pahoran did, to higher purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then strong self-restraint, that's about choosing not to just react impulsively,
Right.
but to respond with wisdom and control.
So it's not just being quiet and agreeable. It's this inner strength, right,
Yes, precisely.
that guides our actions.
And he takes it even further. He draws a distinction between meekness and humility.
Okay.
While humility is about acknowledging our dependence on God, meekness is about being open to learning from all sources, even unexpected ones.
Okay, so that brings us to the story of Naaman, right?
Yes.
The Syrian general who is cured of leprosy.
Uh-huh.
And here you have this powerful man who initially just scoffs at the prophet's simple instructions to wash in the Jordan River.
It seems so simple, right?
Talk about pride.
Oh, he almost missed his miracle because of it.
But his servants, they speak up.
They do.
They urge him to just swallow his pride and follow the prophet's counsel, however strange it seems.
Yeah.
And that's where it hit me.
What's that?
Like, how often do we dismiss advice or insights because they come from a source we don't deem worthy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Meekness, in this sense, is about opening ourselves up to those aha moments, wherever they might come from.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, so we've seen these examples. We've got the definition.
Yeah.
But how do we actually develop this kind of meekness in our own lives?
That's a great question, and that's where we'll pick up next time.
Ooh, I like it.
Because Elder Bednar, he really gets into, like, the nitty-gritty
Okay.
of how this becomes, more than just an idea, but a way of being.
I can't wait to unpack that. See you in part 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about how meekness is so much more than just being quiet and agreeable.
Right.
It's this active, powerful thing.
Yeah.
But how do we actually get it? How do we make it part of our lives?
Well, Elder Bednar makes it clear that, it's not just a switch we can flip.
Right.
It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes conscious effort,
Okay.
righteous choices, and consistent repentance.
So we're talking about work here.
It is work. He even talks about it like a spiritual muscle we got to exercise,
Okay, so we're exercising our meekness muscle. But, I mean, let's be real. Our natural instinct is often to get defensive.
Total.
Or to be proud, or to want to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
So are we just talking about, like, white-knuckling it? Just trying harder to be less reactive?
It's more than just trying harder.
Like,
It's about inviting the Spirit in, right? To help us to transform our hearts. Remember, Elder Bednar also points out that meekness is a spiritual gift.
oh, right, yeah.
That we can seek, something we can pray for.
Okay.
God can help us develop it.
So it's both effort and grace
Exactly.
working together.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
Okay, that's encouraging, but it still feels kind of abstract, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know if we're actually becoming more meek on the inside and not just putting on a show on the outside?
That's a great question. And I think, true meekness isn't just about suppressing our negative reactions. It's about an internal transformation. It changes how we see ourselves and the world around us. It becomes part of our nature, not just something we try to do.
Do you have an example of that? Because that kind of transformation, it feels a little daunting, honestly.
Well, think about Moses.
Okay.
The scriptures describe him as being very meek,
Yeah.
but he's also this incredibly capable leader.
Right. Part of the Red Sea.
Exactly. He had all this power, all this authority,
Mhm.
but he didn't let it go to his head.
So it's like saying that true strength comes from humility.
Yes.
From a willingness to learn, not from this sense of arrogance.
Exactly.
Meekness refines our strength, doesn't diminish it.
It does. It makes it better,
Yeah.
And it brings us, I think, to the ultimate example of meekness,
No.
Jesus Christ.
You know, it's funny you say that because when I think of Jesus,
Yeah.
we often picture him, as this powerful teacher, miracle worker, the Son of God.
Yeah.
But what's often overlooked is that meekness that was just woven through every part of his life.
Yeah, it's there, it's subtle, but it's powerful.
Yeah, it's like, growing up, the images of Jesus we saw, they were always so stoic,
Right.
serious.
Mm-hmm.
But when you read the stories about how he interacted with people,
Yeah.
his compassion, his willingness to meet them where they were,
Mm-hmm.
that's meekness in action.
It absolutely is.
It's not just those big miraculous moments.
Right.
It's those everyday interactions.
Like washing the disciples' feet.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Think about that.
Okay.
Here's the King of Kings humbling himself
Yeah.
to perform this task.
To wash their feet.
Yeah. usually reserved for the lowliest servant.
You know, that story always kind of confused me.
Yeah.
But hearing you say that, it's like he was showing them and us
Yeah.
that true leadership isn't about authority.
Mm.
It's about serving others.
Yes.
With genuine humility and love.
It's about getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Being in the trenches with them.
And then, of course, we have Gethsemane.
Oh, yeah.
Where Jesus' meekness is just on full display.
Oh.
As he's facing, the atonement.
It's hard to even fathom, right?
That one always feels so massive to me.
Yeah.
Like, how can we even begin to relate to that level of sacrifice?
Well, think about it this way. He knew what was coming.
Mhm.
The suffering, unimaginable.
Yeah.
And yet, he chose to submit to the Father's will.
Not my will, but thine be done.
Exactly. That's the essence of meekness, right?
Mhm.
Surrendering our desires, our ego,
Yeah.
to align with God's wisdom.
So it's not about becoming passive doormats.
No.
It's about trusting that God's plan is ultimately for our good.
Yes.
Even when we don't understand it.
Yeah, even when it's hard.
Even when it's really hard.
And this idea of restraint, of choosing not to just react impulsively, it's even more evident in how Jesus responds to his arrest.
Okay, yeah.
He had the power to call down legions of angels.
Yeah, to defend himself.
Yeah, he chooses not to resist.
And he even heals the ear of the servant who was injured during the arrest.
He does. It's incredible.
It's like even in the face of betrayal and injustice, he's still extending compassion and healing to those who are hurting him.
It's a level of self-control that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
His silence, during his trial, his choice not to defend himself, to use his power.
Yeah.
It's a testament, I think, to his divine nature, a powerful example for us.
It's just that level of restraint feels impossible most of the time.
Right.
I mean, our first instinct is to defend ourselves.
Yeah, to protect ourselves.
To get even sometimes. How do we bridge that gap between that, human reaction and the example that Jesus set?
Well, that's where the power of meekness comes in, and Elder Bednar highlights this beautifully when he brings in Mormon's words. Remember, Mormon states that meekness is the foundation for other spiritual gifts like faith, hope, and charity.
Yeah, he actually says without meekness, those other virtues are vain.
It's not just some nice-to-have quality. It's essential,
So we've got to have that base.
It's like you can't build a skyscraper on a shaky foundation right now.
Yeah, I like that.
Without that solid base of meekness, our efforts to develop those other qualities, they won't reach their full potential.
They'll crumble.
They might even collapse under pressure.
Okay, so we've got the foundation analogy.
Yeah.
But practically speaking, how does meekness actually help us develop those other gifts? Like take charity, for example. What's the connection there?
Well, true charity isn't just about, giving money or serving others.
Okay.
It's about seeing others clearly, right? Understanding their needs, acting out of genuine love.
Okay.
Without any expectation of, reward or recognition.
Right.
And pride, that clouds our vision.
Okay.
It makes us focus on ourselves, our own needs and desires. Makes it harder to truly see and serve others.
So meekness is like clearing away the fog of pride.
Yeah, wipes the windshield clean,
Yeah, allowing us to see other people with more clarity, compassion.
And remember, the Savior's promise.
Okay.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
I love that.
It's not just about physical land, right?
Right, yeah.
It's about inheriting the fullness of God's blessings.
Wow, yeah.
Experiencing true joy and peace, both in this life and in the eternities.
I never thought about it like that.
It's beautiful, right?
So it's not just this passive virtue.
No.
It's the key. It's like unlocking our spiritual potential.
It is. And that brings us back to that question that Elder Bednar leaves us with to ponder. If meekness is the foundation for these other spiritual gifts, what could you achieve by cultivating this quality in your own life?
That's a question I think we all need to sit with.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about,
It is.
And honestly, it's easy to think that meekness, it just doesn't really apply today.
I get that.
In today's world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're always told to be assertive, stand up for ourselves, never back down. It's almost like meekness is seen as, well, a weakness.
Yeah, it's true. The world often equates meekness with being weak, a pushover.
Right.
But what we've been talking about, in this deep dive is that true meekness, it's anything but weak.
Yeah.
It's about having that inner strength to restrain our ego, submit to a higher power, be open to learning from those unexpected sources.
Choosing wisdom and compassion over pride and defensiveness.
Right, recognizing that true strength comes from humility.
Yeah.
A willingness to learn, to grow, not from arrogance.
Not from thinking we've got it all figured out.
Exactly.
And it's so different, right?
Totally.
From how the world often operates.
Yeah.
It's all about who can shout the loudest, who has the most followers, who can just shut down the other side.
And that's why, the Savior's example is so powerful.
Yeah.
He was the ultimate model of meekness, right? And yet he changed the world.
It's true.
He didn't force his message on anyone. He didn't seek worldly power.
Yeah, I mean, if Jesus, the Son of God, embraced meekness,
right,
shouldn't that tell us something?
It should. It really should.
It's clearly not about, letting people walk all over you. It's about something so much deeper.
And that's the challenge for us, isn't it? To live in a world that prizes assertiveness and self-promotion.
Yeah.
And yet choose this different path.
The different way.
A path that leads to peace, understanding, connection with God.
As we've been talking, I keep thinking about this quote.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Speak softly, but carry big stick.
Oh, I like that.
It's often attributed to Teddy Roosevelt. And he was talking about foreign policy, but I think it applies here too.
Listen too.
It's not about being silent or passive.
Right.
But about choosing our battles wisely. Speaking with conviction.
Yeah.
But also humility.
Letting our actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. So if someone's feeling overwhelmed right now, by all the noise and chaos, yearning for something more.
A deeper sense of peace.
Yeah, peace, purpose.
Maybe the key lies in embracing this, often misunderstood virtue.
Maybe in a world that's constantly telling us to shout louder, to push harder, it's the quiet power of meekness that leads us to where we need to be.
That's beautiful.
So, as Elder Bednar says, consider what you could achieve by cultivating this quality in your own life.
It's a good question.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into meekness.
I enjoyed that.
We hope you found it insightful, maybe even inspiring.
Yeah, me too.
Until next time.